Hawa, Brakataya Hawa Shah, Brakataya Hawa, Brakataya Hawa Shah, Brakataya Hawa, Brakataya Hawa Shah, Call Halal Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shah Bashem Rakha Kadash. Double honors to our elders and apostles of Great Millstone. Peace and salutations to the hopeful elect scattered across the wind, four winds. This is your brother Yakar Abin from Great Millstone, Houston, and double honors to the men that taught our elders and apostles. That we should uh, our elders explained to us that we should look up words. You have to look up the words in order to get the understanding of what's being said. And if a word, you know, in a different language, let's see if they got it. The prelogue to Sirach. I'm not sure if it's on this app. Uh, Hold on. Let's go. Let's see if we got it. Bear with me. I can just turn. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna start right here. It says this is the prelogue to the book of Sirach. Uh, Wait a minute. Right here. It says Sirach, his son, received it after him, left it to his own son Yahushua, who have gotten it into his hands, compiling it all orderly in one volume, and called it wisdom, in tuteling it both by his own name, his father's name, and his grandfather's, alluring the hearer by the very name of wisdom to have a greater love to the study of this book. It containeth therefore wise sayings, dark sentences, and parables, and certain particular ancient godly stories of men that please the Most High. Also his prayer and song, moreover, what benefits the Most High have vouchsafed his people, and what plagues he have heaped upon their enemies. This Yahushua did imitate Solomon, and was no less famous for wisdom and learning, both indeed a man of great learning, and so reputed also the prologue of the wisdom of Yahushua, the son of Sirach, whereas many and great things have been delivered unto us by the law and by the prophets and by others that have followed their steps, for the which things Israel ought to be commended for learning and wisdom, and wherefore not only the readers must needs become skillful themselves, but also they that desire to learn to be able to profit them which are without, both by speaking and writing. My grandfather Yahushua, when he had much given himself to reading of the law and the prophets and other books of our fathers, and had begotten therein good judgment, was drawn also to himself to write something pertaining to learning and wisdom, to the intent that those which are desirous to learn and are addicted to these things might profit much more in living according to the law. Wherefore, let me entreat you to read it with favor and attention, and to pardon us wherein we may seem to come short of some words which we have labored to interpret, for the same things uttered in Hebrew and translated into another tongue have not the same force in them, and not only these things, but the law itself, and the prophets and the rest of the books have no small difference when they are spoken in their own language. So we have to go into, when you're reading the Bible, you have to go into the words that the original words that were spoken. And we're going to start here. This is Genesis chapter 1 and verse 1. It says, "In the beginning, God created the earth, the heavens and the earth." So when we go into these words in the headings, Bayath, Rayashyath, first, in the beginning, H7225, in the headings says God, which is Alahayim, as H430. Okay, it says gods in the orderly sense, but specifically used of the supreme God, occasionally applied by the way of differences to magistrates, and sometimes as a superlative, angels, gods, okay, rulers, judges, divine ones, angels. See, this word Alahayim, the Y-A-M, makes it plural. So this says, in the beginning, basically the gods or the angels created the heaven and the earth. So this right here explains to you that it was more than one entity. And we can get that in Genesis chapter 1, verse 26. It says, and the Alahayim, the gods, the rulers, judges, angels, gods, and the gods said, let us make man in our own image. So, meaning that there was more than one person. Okay, so the Christian church says that that's God, well, the Most High, Yahweh, and Yahweh Shah, and the Raha Kadash, the three in one. I don't know how that shit breaks down. It never made sense to me. It still doesn't make sense, and there's no way, they're separate entities. It's the Lord, His Son, and then the Holy Spirit, which is His angels. But the Lord and His Son are two different people. The Lord's name is Yahweh, and His Son's name is Yahweh Shah. They're not one entity. No, they are in agreement with each other. But anyway, okay. So when you go into this, the Alahayim created the heavens and the earth. Well, who was the head of that Alahayim? It was Yahweh Shah. Yahweh Shah was he was the foreman. You have the I guess the general manager would be Yahweh, and then Yahweh Shah would be the foreman, and then the people under him, the 144,000, the first fruits, for lack of a better term, who created the heaven and the earth. But we can get that. This is John chapter 1 and verse 1. It says, in the beginning was the word. Let's get that. Oh man, let's. How do we word it? That's not it, but Well, anyway, let's back to that, John. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. So this should be in the beginning was the Word. We know the Word being Yahweh Shah. Yahweh Shah is the Word of the Most High. And the Word was with the Most High, and the Word was a power. So, okay, it says the same was in the beginning with God. Reading it verbatim. The same was in the beginning with God. So, in the beginning was Yahweh created Yahweh Shah. And then Yahweh Shah, as it reads, all things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. So Yahweh Shah created the world. The Yahweh is the one that commissioned him to create it. He gave him the blueprint, and then Yahweh Shah oversaw it. We'll get another one. This is Colossians, starting at verse 12. It says, giving thanks unto the Father, which hath made us meet to be partakers of the inheritance of the saints in the light, who have delivered us from the power of darkness, and have translated us into the kingdom of his Son, of his dear Son, in whom we have redemption through his blood, even the forgiveness of sins, who is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of every creature. So Yahweh, which is the Lord, he created Yahweh Shah, and then Yahweh Shah created everything else. This is not how they have explained it to us, but this is how it goes. It says, for by him were all things created, that are in heaven and that are in earth, visible and invisible, whether they be thrones, dominions, principalities, or powers. All things were created by him and for him. And he is before all things, and by him all things consist. And he is the head of the body, the church, who is the beginning, the firstborn from the dead, that in all things he might have preeminence. So that right there, the context clues explains to you that it's talking about his son. It says, by him were all things created that are in heaven and that are in the earth, visible and invisible, whether they be thrones, dominions, principalities, or powers. All things were created by him and for him, and he is before all things, and by him all things consist, and he is the head of the body, the church, who is the beginning, the firstborn from death. The firstborn from dead. So who's the firstborn from dead? Yahweh Shah. Yahweh Shah rose after 3 days. 3 days and nights in the grave, he rose, he was resurrected. So it's talking about the firstborn from the dead who created all things. The Elohim, the head of the Elohim here in Genesis chapter 1. You know, but as it says, and he is the head of the body, the church, who is the beginning, the firstborn from the dead, that in all things he might have preeminence. Get that word preeminence, G4409, is to be the first, to hold the first place in rank or influence. So yeah, I ain't gonna try and pronounce that Greek word. But yeah, we have to look up these words. For it pleased the Father, in him should all fulfillness dwell, and having made peace through the blood of his cross, by him to reconcile all things unto himself. By him I say, whether they be things in earth or things in heaven. It says, and having made peace through the blood of his cross, by him to reconcile all things. Reconcile, let's get this. G604. Yeah, I'm not going to try and pronounce that. It says, bring back a former state of honor. Reconcile completely, to reconcile back again, to bring back a former state of honor. So, you know, the Lord wants him in his former state where he was, the head of the Alahayim. That's what has happened here. And then let's get one more and we'll just close it out. This is what is that? Okay. Yeah. This is just to prove that they're different. Yahweh and Yahweh Shah are two different entities. And like I said, Yahweh created Yahweh Shah. Let's get that. No, no, no. Come on. Right there, John 17:5. It says, "And now, O Father, glorify thou me with thine own self, with the glory which I had with thee before the world was." Okay? So, this right there explains to you that Yahweh was with Yahweh Shah, or Yahweh Shah was with Yahweh before the world was. But back in that Corinthians, yeah, it says, "And when all things shall be subdued unto him, or put under him, to this is G5293, to arrange under, to be subordinate, to be subject, put in subjection." So when all things are put in subjection under him, unto him, then shall the Son also himself be subject, be put under the rule, to arrange under, to be subordinate, subject, be in subjection. G5293, unto him that put all things under him, that the Most High may be all in all. So, you know, uh, the Father, Yahweh, commissions people to go out, well, not people, commissions things to be done, and then he takes credit for those things that are done. You can read that in Job uh, chapter 2, because Yahweh sent out Satan to plague Job, and then Yahweh said, well, let's get it. I'll get it, and we'll close out from there. But yes, the Lord Yahweh created Yahweh Shah, and then Yahweh Shah created everything. Then Yahweh put Yahweh Shah in his creation, to rule over it. But let's get that Job chapter 2. Okay, yeah, this is Job chapter. Okay, 2 and 2. We'll start at 1, but this explains that Satan wasn't kicked out of heaven. Satan is the spiritual angel or demon. Satan was not put out of heaven. He's not against the Most High. He carries out his bidding. It says, "And again, there was a day when the sons of the Most High came to present themselves before the Lord, Yahweh. And Satan came also along with them to present himself before Yahweh. And Yahweh said unto Satan, From whence comest thou? And Satan answered Yahweh and said, From going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it. And Yahweh said unto Satan, Hast thou considered my servant Job? There is none like him in the earth, a perfect and upright man, one that feareth the Most High, and escheweth evil. And still he holdeth fast his integrity, although thou movedest me against him to destroy him without cause. Okay, so you have to go back and read chapter 1, and it'll explain to you how Satan moved the Most High against him without cause. With that being said, I like to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Raha Kadash. Double honors to our elders and apostles of Great Millstone. Peace and salutations to the hopeful elect scattered across the four winds. This is your brother again, Yakar Abin from Great Millstone, Houston. Hopefully this lesson is edifying to the hopeful elect. Shalom.